Hey, welcome to the episode which is all about headhunting. In particular, what I'm referencing here is the skill, nay, the art of being able to reach out to an individual, not describing them as a candidate, reaching out to an individual who's doing a job in an organisation where perhaps they've had very little thought about changing roles over the course of the last, 6 to 12 months, because they're invested, because they're doing good work, because they are getting all of their dopamine from whatever it is that they are experiencing that might revolve around recognition and reward and experience and the quality of the work itself. I'm not talking about sending messages to people on LinkedIn saying, hey, you're looking for a job because I've got a really exciting opportunity. Because I feel that there is a distinct difference that seems to have got blurred over the course of the last probably 10 years. If I go back, like way back in time, go back to when I was working in executive search in the mid-90s, no LinkedIn, no job boards, no real way to be able to identify named individuals inside organisations without a little bit of espionage. Being able to identify who are the key people in those organisations, who are the ones with the most talent, who are the most capable, how do we start to identify these people? And it was very much a telephone contact sport. And back in those days, being on the receiving end of a headhunting approach, it wasn't particularly frequent because good headhunters were thin on the ground. Plenty of agencies, plenty of people who were running database-driven recruitment firms, plenty of agencies that would regularly advertise in the local press to find that week's hungry and eager candidates. But exec search, headhunters, less common. So it was flattering. Like if you were a regional sales manager or a technical director or an MD of a small to medium-sized enterprise and you got the call, you'd take it. You'd feel flattered. You'd be interested. You'd know that there was some targeting taking place. In fact, we'd often call people and ask them the question, are you open to talking confidentially right now? And you'd often hear, let me shut my office door. And you'd hear the door shut and they'd come back to their desk. Returning to the now, it's not quite like that anymore, is it? It seems as though everybody in recruitment claims to be a headhunter. Everyone has some form of pitch or presentation to a prospect or a client at the point of instruction, explaining how they're going to go and headhunt people. And it starts to dilute the true activity of headhunting because you end up with a large proportion of people who work in businesses who believe that headhunting ultimately is their experience of what it's like to get icky messages on LinkedIn from people who clearly don't know a lot about them and seem to be much more interested in generating CVs than they are in understanding a human being and as an individual what their preferences might revolve around in terms of their career aspirations. So these icky messages end up being targeted en masse to people. Hey you, really exciting opportunity for a leading manufacturer of something you've never heard of. You'd be the ideal candidate to apply, and it encourages this application process that very few people will want to get into, right? No one wants to get into any kind of funnel, least of all getting into the funnel of an icky recruiter. So response rates are low. And those recruiters report back to their client about low levels of interest, the need to become more flexible, when actually if they told the truth, which they're probably not fully aware of, they need to get better at headhunting. Or they need to realign in their own mind what is the activity that they're doing, and they're simply sending digital messages to people looking for somebody who's already decided, I think I'd like to be a candidate. And because they've already decided it, they respond. And that creates an organic run rate for responses. And that organic run rate for responses for recruiters, it ebbs and flows a little. However, in reality, if somebody replies to an icky LinkedIn message, they'll reply to plenty of others. Now, I don't want this to be misinterpreted. I do believe there is a place for sending messages to people on LinkedIn. And I believe that that place sits firmly in a one-to-one messaging strategy that ensures that the recipient feels like they've been chosen. Because whenever we do something which is outbound, which is designed to engage with another human, client, candidate, individual, another human, it needs to deliver three things. These were the things that helped us when we used the phone to call people at their desk to improve the connection process, the connectivity between the headhunter and the hunted. And those three things, they're still the same today, even with all of the digital technology that's out there. When we deliver these three things, it has a significant impact on the quality of our results. So these three things, they become a checklist for you. A checklist for a headhunter interacting with human beings, going on a journey to help those individuals discover why now may be a good time to pause for a moment and consider what else may be out there. Not punch them in the stomach and see if they're looking for a job. So if you're ready, people, pen and paper, the three things, the three greatest gifts that we can give to another individual when we do our outreach are as follows. Number one, make people feel significant, like they matter, because they matter. It's really important that when somebody is on the receiving end of communication from someone they describe as being a stranger, it actually feels warranted. It is intended to be for them. And the more we can help the person to feel like they matter, that they are significant, that they are seen, the less likely it is they feel as though they are being guided towards a funnel. The thing that puts people off is when it feels like the message could have been for anybody. If you go to your sent items, email, LinkedIn messages, in-mails, wherever it is, have a look at the last, half a dozen messages that you sent in an attempt to either re-energize a legacy candidate in your database or to target an individual who is on LinkedIn that may have been part of an en masse bit of communication using in-mail in Recruiter. And just look at the language. Could that message have been sent to somebody else? Could it have been sent to the person they sit next to? Could it have been sent to the person doing the same job at their competitor? Because if the answer is yes, and you can see it, so can they. So why would they respond? If they feel like you are looking for somebody like them, as opposed to you specifically want them as an individual, they'll take a hard pass unless they find themselves in a position of extreme need. And then they will respond out of necessity, not because of the quality of your messaging, which is how we end up with an organic response rate, irrespective of how poor our messaging is. Necessity drives the engagement. Same thing happens in sales. There are agencies being instructed today because a client finds themselves in a position of necessity, not because they want to, they have to. So as we do our outreach, digital outreach that we are sending to individuals in named organizations where we believe that person could possess the necessary capabilities, motivations and attitude to deliver an exceptional outcome for our client, we should make them feel chosen. And when they feel chosen, it's like the spotlight, the sunshine is on them. They feel significant. That goes back to the old days of feeling a little bit flattered. It takes a little more work today because, as I said, everyone thinks they're a headhunter. Very few are. Second thing that we give to people, we help them to feel understood. And when somebody feels understood, it is the beginning of a trust-based relationship. Now, I get it. When we are targeting a stranger, we may not know a great deal about them. This is where some people take the false road to success. And I say it's the false road to success because it is very difficult to engage with people and show that you understand them by choosing purely to focus on things which are personal and personalizations. Complimenting somebody on their sweater on LinkedIn and then trying to headhunt them, they don't really link together, you know. What people want to feel understood about is the context of their situation. And that context may be driven by the organisation they work for. It may be driven by the tenure with which they have served that organisation. It may be about the progression that we can see or not see in their profile. And we start to use some deductive logic to demonstrate to them, I think I know what it's like to be you. You know, now that you've been with your current employer for 4 years, thoughts may turn every now and then to thinking about what's next. And when I can show people, I think I can see the world through your eyes. It's not guaranteed, but I start to show an element of understanding. It helps them to feel like we get it. And if we've made them feel significant and we now make them feel understood, we're getting closer to a response. But we're not there yet, people. We go back to the old days on the phone, helping people to feel significant. The act of being headhunted was flattering enough to help them to feel significant. Helping them to feel understood by showing this is how we understand what life could be like in the organisation that you're at and where thoughts sometimes turn. The third thing, whether we are using digital comms or we are using the phone to interrupt somebody's day, we need them to feel safe. And when we deliver three things, feeling significant, feeling understood, and feeling safe, safety is so important. It has probably doubled in value over the course of the last 12 months. The more volatile the world, the more risky things feel, the more difficult it is to get good quality contributory individuals doing good jobs in other businesses to step out of the shadows. It's often safer to stay where you are. We have an epidemic of job hugging at the moment. People holding on to a job that perhaps they would have left 6 or 12 months ago had there have been fairer weather in the economy. But no, risk says stay. Better to continue to accumulate employment in an organisation than to start again somewhere else. So that jeopardy, that perception of risk that revolves around change, makes people hesitate. And then there is the double jeopardy of what if I get caught? You know, and if you're trying to make great strides by saying, send me your CV or let's book a conversation, and that is a big step for some of these people, give them a halfway house. Help them to feel like it's okay to reply. A reply is all we would need to begin a conversation. And when we accumulate safety, because this feels discreet, we highlight it's confidential. We show that this isn't about an application for a job. It could be a tentative inquiry to ask some questions. We may help people to feel more comfortable moving forward. And as they feel more comfortable moving forward, on the back of feeling significant and understood, we get replies, we get responses. Response rates increase the more consistently we help people to feel significant, understood, and safe. And we can pick up the phone and do this. We can send an email and do this. We can send an email and do this. Honestly, the greatest way to have maximum impact with this is synchronous communication. Phone call, face-to-face meeting, like a networking event. Anything which is asynchronous, email, in-mail, social messages, WhatsApp, It gives the other person time to reflect and hesitate and bail out. Whereas in a conversation, we're more likely to encounter a person who responds. Yet the thing that puts recruiters off doing the call is they don't feel safe. They're not sure that they're going to be able to get across to the other person exactly what it is that they want to say. And they bail out before they dial. Dial people, because on the other side of the dial could be your next placement in waiting. And they may be more likely to converse with you on the phone than perhaps respond to a message. I was sat with a recruiter who works in technical markets within pharmaceuticals. And whilst we were together, he made a phone call to a technical manager. And the technical manager took the phone call through a switchboard. Took the phone call, he introduced himself, and the technical manager said, "Can I pause you for a moment? Have you been messaging me on LinkedIn? Because I've had lots of messages from recruiters recently on LinkedIn and I haven't had time to go through them all. I'm sorry if I've missed your message." So this wasn't someone who's like squaring up for a fight. This was someone who was saying, "Dude, I've been so busy and I've been getting all of these messages and I haven't been able to do anything with them. If you're one of those people, I'm sorry." And the guy who I was with, Matt, said, "No, I wanted to talk to you directly." And the guy said, "Oh, what do you want?" And he spoke to him about an opportunity and told him why he felt it could be a good fit and explained some of the work that he'd been doing recently to help others in similar situations to be able to find meaningful definitions of betterment. And the guy said, "I'm not looking for a job at the moment. It does sound interesting. Can I ask some questions?" And it progressed. So the engagement took place with someone who had yet to identify as being a candidate. The engagement took place with somebody who acknowledged multiple messages from multiple recruiters that had gone unlooked at and unanswered, and acknowledged to the person who was calling him. Behaviourally, I'm all right with this. And actually, it's probably easier to do it like this because it's synchronous than having to find moments of time to reflect on things in my inbox to make decisions about how I want to progress. So the nice thing was, Matt moved forward with an individual who, having listened and having booked more time on the phone to talk more openly, agreed to become a candidate. That, my friends, was headhunting. Not encountering somebody who'd already decided to become a candidate and then do it. So as you start to review your outreach, ask yourself, why aren't I doing this on the phone? What stops me from picking up the phone to call these people on the numbers that I have access to? That could include the business's switchboard number. And if your brain gets filled with excuses because you don't feel ready for it, or you don't know what you're going to say, or you've decided that your market, in some special universe, your market wouldn't like it, you know you're delaying success, reducing the opportunity to investigate a skill set, to practice, to get good at. A lady called Charlotte, who I worked with, she was new to recruitment. And her boss had made a really shrewd investment on her behalf because he'd paid for membership to the Your People Engine environment. And she had access to the entire library to help her to be able to identify how she could become the best version of herself at this job. And one of the things that her boss had said to her during the interview process and when she joined was that in his experience, the recruiters who get best at generating the highest quality candidates are the ones who most often succeed because they help their clients to get access to those people that others can't. And he told her the best way to do that is to pick up the phone and to have conversations with people. She leaned into that bit of advice and she spent the majority of the first 6 weeks that she had access to all of the content that I was sharing, to focus purely on the content that was about telephone headhunting. And every week she would turn up and she would ask me questions about my inferences, about her understanding of it in the context of her desk. And we then had a message from her manager. Her boss said she had been exceptional at generating candidates through telephone-based headhunting, and in her first quarter had created 6 self-generated placements where she generated the candidate and the job, all using what I would consider to be the primary tool for a recruiter still today, despite Claude and ChatGPT and all of these automation programs, the phone. 6 self-generated deals in her first quarter, people. That is good going. So if you're looking for a way to future-proof yourself, to be able to stand out, to create differentiation, to be able to provide to clients what others can't, put some thought into how you could become a true headhunter. Somebody who engages with an audience of individuals to find the most talented. And I'm sure that as you do that, whether you adopt digital channels, the phone, or a blend of the two together, you'll start to find you get to where you want to be far quicker.